Welcome to a very, very different video from Koala Gardens today. This is a premiere. I hope you're here chatting live with me, and I want to acknowledge the Widjabul Waible people of the Bundjalung Nation on whose land I live, work and play. Now this video is brought to you because of the wonderful support I receive from my ever-growing Patreon family and other types of supporters, and I'm so excited to go woohoo! Big shout out to my latest patron, Sylvia Meyer. Thank you so much. You support me in so many ways behind the scenes. Now all my video is always free, so do sit back and enjoy this, because I got to go over to the USA during July, and one of the amazing things that I did while I was over there was I went to the Exotic Feline Rescue Center at Center Point in Indiana. So Koala Gardens gets to meet the big cats. They gave me the VIP treatment there. I cannot thank these people enough for how amazing the response was to me turning up and all of the things that they showed me and spoke to me about. And I am going to now share a lot of that time with you, because even though this is really different to koala rescue, there were lots of parallels of what's happening in this world. Now let's start by just having a little bit of a laugh, because this really did tickle our funny bone. The vehicles they drive around the Big Cat Rescue Center in is a bobcat. Yeah, anyway, that tickled our funny bone immensely. I didn't get to ride in one. Now, this amazing lady here treated us like royalty, and I want to give a huge shout out of thanks to Rebecca Rizzo, who is the head keeper at this centre and who gave us hours of her time. All of my video is always free, so make sure that you do always smash that like button, leave a comment, share it out to all your friends, and of course, don't forget to make sure you're subscribed so that you'll always get notified when new videos come out. Now, I got to actually do an interview with Rebecca, who is the head keeper, and also with this amazing man who founded the organisation. But what I want you to see is in the background, look at those two tigers just having a little snuggle. They started just as we came walking up, which was pretty amazing that they gave us that little display. Now, I emailed the centre before I went, a couple of days before, and asked if I would be able to speak to people and do a little bit of an interview, etc., about what they're doing. And so I have full permission for this video, and I'm so grateful to be able to understand a bit of what's going on there and to be able to share it with you. So, my wonderful koala friends, sit back and enjoy some really interesting things that you'll learn, because I learned a lot. Thank you so much for giving me a bit of your time and for that amazing tour that we've had so far. Can you start by just telling us like your name and what you do here? Look at
Sure.
that.
My name is Joe Taft, and I came here in 1991 with 2 tigers and a leopard. So I started all of this. And
my name is Rebecca Rizzo, and I am the head keeper here at the Rescue Center, and I've been here for 20 years.
Fantastic. So I'm getting the idea that you are pretty much volunteer run. Do you have some paid staff and some volunteers?
We do have both, yes. We have some paid staff, and we do rely heavily on volunteers and interns to help us get everything done.
But most of it is paid staff. I mean,
mostly paid staff?
We have 19 employees here.
Okay. And about how many volunteers would you have?
We probably have a base of about 20 volunteers.
Okay. That's amazing for the amount of animals you've got here.
We have a lot of animals, but we make it work.
Yeah, so where I'm from, we have about 200 volunteers.
Wow.
At our place, and yet the maximum koalas we can fit in care at any one time is only about 30.
Wow. Wow.
Right, so it's a huge, and we've got about 5 or 6 paid staff.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, you know, that difference, because you don't have to do a lot for yours because we're doing rehabilitation, so ours are sick or injured. You know, so there's kind of a different thing there. I was really interested in your talking about, with the laws changing, that about keeping cats and how that's going to make less animals coming in. So can you just tell me a little bit about what that law was again?
I'll let you take that one.
Sure. There has recently been enacted, I think it's called the Big Cat Public Safety Act, which pretty much puts an end to the pet trade in big cats. If you have one now, you're allowed to keep it, but you have to register with the government, and you can't do it again.
Right.
And I see that as both good and bad. I was originally a pet owner. I started with an ocelot as a pet, and then had a leopard for 19 years before I came here and became a corporate pet or corporate animal keeper as opposed to a private pet owner.
Yep.
So with that new law, then these cats are no longer going to be dispersed widely into the pet market, where they go mostly to people who have no idea how to take care of them or no realization of how dangerous they really are.
Yeah. So what would you say are your biggest hurdles in working with the big cats?
Paying for it?
Yeah. I would say the expense would be the biggest hurdle.
Expense?
Just daily operations, really.
And so how do you finance running a place like this?
So we're open to the public.
Mm-hmm.
We don't charge much, but the important thing about that is people can come in and learn about them and see them. That's the biggest thing we do. We also do fundraisers. We try to apply for grants, for whatever that's worth. Anything we can. It's really all about money management, though, because we're open to the public. We're busier in the summer than we are in the winter, so we got to make that kind of work throughout the year.
Yeah. That's great. And you were saying too that you have these specialised dental vets who donate their services and things, so that must all help a huge amount in financing things. Yeah,
it makes a lot of happy animals.
Yeah. So one of my last questions is, do you have a really memorable moment? I bet you've got 100 million, but can you just give me one memorable moment?
Oh, I'll let you start on that while I mull that one over.
Okay, I think my most memorable moment, I was still fairly new here, and we had just taken in some animals from a woman down south, and this one particular tiger chose to let me and only me in the truck. He was really aggressive to anybody else, and when I walked in the truck, he calmed down, he chuffed at me, and it was the most special feeling in the world to have a tiger choose you. Yeah. It was so amazing, and I will never forget that tiger. I will never forget that moment of just, he was going crazy while we were trying to unload him out of the truck, and just stopped for a minute for me, and it was really, it's something I'll never forget.
That's amazing, yeah.
And I've kept animals for well over 50, cats for well over 50 years at this point. And some of my most memorable moments are perhaps my first ocelot just getting my first ocelot and getting her to
Mm.
take the bottle and thrive.
Mm.
Uh, and my first leopard, who I was so terrified of for the first few weeks, then laying on my chest and licking my face,
Oh, wow.
lifting her head up, putting her ears down, and going,
Oh, my
and
goodness.
then going back to
Yeah,
licking my face.
amazing. So I'd imagine that this has like just enriched your lives
Absolutely.
hugely in a way you could never explain to somebody because there's such personal, moments that you get to have.
Yes. And I think anybody who works with animals can relate to that.
Exactly, yeah. Look, thank you so much for doing a little interview with me, and I can't wait to see the facilities up there as well, and to be able to, send this out to people in Australia through my channel and provide links below so that people can come and, see what you're doing and recommend that they come here if they come over.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We appreciate it. We're glad you came out.
Yes, thank you for coming to visit us.
Are you ready now to come for a walk and learn lots about this centre and the big cats? So this is the Exotic Feline Rescue Center, and this is Joe, the founder and director, and we're about to meet the first of the big cats and how devastating the stories were behind some of what we saw.
Now, did you see the film Tiger King?
I couldn't watch it all. Yeah,
But you
it's a
heard
bit
of that.
pretty distressing.
This is one of the animals confiscated from one of those guys.
Okay.
Amazing. Okay.
I know what it is, but I
Yeah.
just-
I couldn't. Yeah. So distressing.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's a much different animal than he was when
I
he came
bet.
here 4 years ago.
I bet.
Oh, yeah.
And these structures are fantastic.
Yeah, he likes it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because these guys are almost arboreal.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite in the way a koala is, but yeah, you can't just give them a run on the ground. They've got to have all of that climbing. Was one of the first things that I really was impressed with when we were visiting here was the construction of what's inside the runs for each of the animals. And if you're looking as this video goes along, you might notice that there's lots of differences and similarities in that, depending on the actual breed of the big cat that's in there. But this has got multiple levels there. That cat can climb and wend its way up just like it would throughout a forest. But, every one of those runs must cost quite an amount of money to make. And somebody had to think it out and design it. And then not only that, but notice how it's all built underneath a beautiful natural canopy. So it's a run. It's enclosed, it's got built structures, and yet it feels so natural at the same time. I was really impressed by this.
Yeah.
So when people ask, do they make good pets? Well, if you're the person, sure. Also, if you like cat pee, they're great pets because they are not litter box trainable. And the thing about these guys is that what makes them what considers these guys a big cat versus, like the lions and tigers, they're all considered big cats because you can spay and neuter these guys at the youngest age possible and they will still continue to spray. It's how they mark their territory.
Right.
They're not doing it to be mean or anything. They're just marking their territory. So if you absolutely love cat pee, they're a great pet.
So the females spray as well as the males.
Males and females, all species do spray. Yep. So the first thing that you should be thinking when you hear that little discussion is how much the big cats rely on scent to do a lot of their communication, because you hear me talking about this with the koalas. And I think that as humans, we really underestimate how much all other species use
so many different ways to communicate than what we have learned to rely on, because once we built up the ability to use language, we don't rely as much on other modes of communication as we used to, even though we do use a lot of body language, tone of voice, etc. to back up the language we're using. Animals are working through their life and through our world on a whole different level.
So now there are 3 small cats in this enclosure.
Up the top.
Way up top, I can see
Up the
Shin
top
Shin.
at the back.
And then also Muna over there. They are both bobcats, a male and a female bobcat. They came from a rehabber in Kansas. They had some medical issues. They were found as babies. They had some medical issues, and unfortunately they were deemed unreleasable for that reason. So he needed a home for them. That same rehabber had already brought 2 bobcats here before, so he knew where we were and who we were and really wanted them to come here. So we agreed. So that's Muna is the one you can actually, if you come this way, you can see him a lot better. Muna is the one on the lower shelf, and Shin Shin is up top. And then they live with a female Canada lynx who's up over here. Her name is Button. Button came from a facility in Montana that was downsizing and needed to get rid of some animals, so we agreed to take some from them. So all 3 of these guys are only about a year old, so they're still growing, and they're doing really well together, which is really funny because you would not normally see bobcats and lynx live together. They're not necessarily natural enemies in the wild, but they do compete for the same territories, same food, things like that. But they do actually, they're very closely related. Basically, they're like cousins in the wild. And they do just fine if you put them together in captivity, and especially when they're young enough, they do absolutely fine. And this little girl here, this is Bella Mesa. Bella Mesa is a female bobcat. She came from a facility called Wildlife in Need, which used to be down south of here along the Kentucky border. The guy was known to do baby playtime with a lot of different animals, which is never very good for any animal. The conditions at his facility were never very good either. He's finally been shut down. We agreed to take 14 animals from there, and Bella Mesa here is just one of them.
What are they doing?
So she's probably really nervous with what's going on out in the road. We've got a telephone pole being replaced, and there's cutting some trees and doing some stuff. So she's really nervous with a lot of that kind of stuff going on, unfortunately. So we'll kind of leave her and let her be. She can hear them screaming down there too, so that doesn't ever help. And you'll see various responses to all of that going on. Some of them just don't care, and some of them don't. Some of them do really care.
How old did you say Bella Mesa was?
We don't have an age on Bella Mesa.
You don't?
No.
So this here is Sassy. Sassy is a female leopard. She came from the same Amish man in Topeka where Tiger Lily and Tiger Dilly came from. And I'm going to go ahead and answer the question that everybody always asks about Sassy. No, she is not pregnant. She's just fat. So she did come to us overweight, and then after she got spayed, she got even bigger, unfortunately. She is on a diet, and she is actually a very active leopard. She just has the bad genetics where she just never loses the weight, unfortunately. We have
A lot of flies.
Yeah, the good old fly paper. Yeah,
we do a lot for fly control out here. We use the sticky traps. We also, you'll see those horsefly traps out because we have horseflies here, which are atrocious. And we also spread out, we put out they're called fly predators, and they're itty bitty little wasps. They actually look like gnats. And what they do is they eat fly larvae. So we spread them all throughout the facility. We get them weekly, I believe, in the summer. I think they come in weekly. And we spread thousands of those things out. So we do a lot for fly control here. Yeah. Well, hi, Rocky. So this guy here, this is Rocky. Rocky is a male tiger. He came from a facility, a cub petting facility down in southern Indiana, where you could go to pay to play with baby animals at that kind of place too. And unfortunately, this place wanted out of the business, and they had 5 adult animals remaining. So we agreed to take all 5, and Rocky was just one of them. All those animals were kept in smaller enclosures, and it was just on concrete. So you can imagine how happy they are to have a big enclosure full of natural It's Indiana natural. It's Indiana natural. It's never going to be their natural because we can't do that.
No.
But we make it as Indiana natural for them as they want it to be. So all of the enclosures, what we do when we build these enclosures is we put a lot of gravel in there because these guys are heavy bodied, and we have clay as our substrate. The clay will wash out, so that will create an escape route. So therefore there's a lot of gravel sunk into these enclosures. And then we do spread our compost. Because we have a lot of poop, we have a lot of other stuff that goes into our compost. It's a very active pile. We flip it multiple times a day at 180 degrees. And that is very wonderful stuff to be used. So we spread it in our enclosures, we seed it, and then from there, it's up to the animals what they want to grow. We have built some big, beautiful enclosures here and watched them clear everything out of it. Usually what we notice is that as they get older, they're not so much into landscaping anymore, so they kind of let their stuff grow up a little bit more. But that is totally up to them. Zeus is our only lion. Hi, I don't have anything for you. I know you heard your name. No treats, but thank you.
He listened.
He did. Zeus came from a retired circus trainer in Peru, Indiana, that kept 10 cats in a barn. He also kept an elephant and horses in that same barn. As you can imagine, it was not large and it was absolutely not clean. This boy was in the very back of the barn, and on a very sunny day, he might have been lucky enough to get some sunlight or some fresh air, but he did not get it often. Max lives with his buddy Mercury. Max! Hi, can I get some meows? Can I get a... Come here. Big cat. Now, if you listen closely, you can hear him purring.
Can.
Oh.
So cougars are the largest cats that purr. Cougars and all the small cats have the mechanism to purr. Lions, tigers, and leopards are considered roaring animals, and they don't even have the mechanisms to purr. They have the mechanisms to roar. And actually lions make a unique roar. Tigers make a noise that's unique to them that we'll have one make. And then leopards they have a little bit more unique noises as well, but.
So it was a bit hard to pick up the purring with the camera when she was doing that, but we got to see Rebecca do a lot of this with nearly all the large cat enclosures that we walked up to, where she had her own personal way of greeting with those cats. So you'll see that in some of the videos she talks about the cats, some of them would use vocalizing as greetings, but I really noticed that Rebecca would go up to the wire and would put her hand in front of the wire. The cat would start to sniff her hand, and then she would put fingers through the wire and actually make physical contact with the cat while they were smelling her hand. Now, you mustn't take that as some kind of a thing that might be saying those big cats are safe. She made it really clear these big cats are not safe. If she was with them without the wire, all bets would be off. These are predators, so different to working with koalas who are not predators. I mean, just look at the difference that you can imagine there being between koalas and something like a 400 to 600 pound tiger. Incredible. This photo that Beth took of me was me leaning in with my GoPro there, trying to just really get a capture there of the size of those feet. These animals are truly just huge. Quite impressive.
He's being really chill up here on his box. His name is Drago. Drago is a young male tiger. He came from a family on the south side of Chicago who thought it was going to be a great idea to get a baby tiger as a pet. At 3 months old, they realized it was a terrible idea, so they called us. When we got Drago, he was only about 30 pounds. He was still being transitioned from the bottle to solid food, so we got a little bit of time where we got to interact with him, but not very much time at all. These guys, when a lion or a tiger is born, they weigh 2 pounds. At a year old, they're about 200 pounds. That's usually about the time we get phone calls to take these guys. We very rarely get babies in because everybody loves them and they're cute, cuddly, and affordable. But at a year old, when it's the complete opposite, no one wants them anymore.
Meat costs.
So it can cost, I couldn't even imagine if you were going to the grocery store and doing it. So one of the things about us being in the middle of nowhere, we have advantages to that. There's farmers around here. So when a horse or a cow dies on their property, they can bring it over to us. We'll cut it up and feed it on out. That way they don't have to pay to have it rendered or buried. We get food for our animals.
Right.
And then the other way we get our food is Tyson Foods. If they send a load of chicken or turkey somewhere and for whatever reason it gets rejected, they have to get rid of it, so they'll bring it to us for free.
Now, those of you who know anything about how we feed the koalas that are in the hospital know that, for example, I have a plantation here with a few hundred trees on it, and that we need a leaf team of at least 2 people who go out every single day, and they have to find trees that are either growing along the roadside or preferably in plantations that we manage, and cut the leaf from the trees to bring them in, because we have to give that fresh food to the koalas every single day. Imagine running a rescue place where you're getting phone calls from farmers going, "Oh, hey, my horse died. Would you like a body?" And you've got to get something the size of a horse in, and you've got to go through and do the whole butchering process and prepare it to feed to those animals, and you have to store like meat, right? We're storing eucalyptus leaf, which has its own set of issues, particularly in the summer when it can dry out. But the worst that can happen is that leaf dries out and it becomes mulch for other plants. I just can't even imagine the logistics of things that the people looking after a big cat rescue place have to work through. It's really been an eye-opener for me.
So Drago, hi Tiny, come here. So the noise that he is making, that is called a chuff. It is a greeting noise that tigers make to one another as well as to us. I'm not going to tell you it's friendly, because we all know somebody who's grumpy that will still say hello to you.
Okay.
It's a greeting noise, not a friendly noise.
He sounds like
And Kimbo is our notorious sprayer. So if you do see his tail go up, watch
away.
out, go to either side of his tail, because if you just back up, he might still hit you, because they spray pretty far. Now, he's not spraying to be mean or anything like that. He just marks his territory constantly, but unfortunately with chain link, it goes right through and it hits us. So he's not doing it because he likes you or doesn't like you. He's just marking the fence with his scent, and it just kind of hits us. Now, I will say, if you do get sprayed, it's going to smell like stale popcorn, and it's going to fade out pretty quickly. You probably won't even notice it later on, but usually people don't want to get sprayed.
We had this great discussion around safety when working with the big cats, and it would appear that it's really only people who have qualifications that can actually work with the animals, which makes sense, because we have people who get injuries working with koalas because they don't handle the wildlife properly. But you're unlikely to be able to actually get mauled and killed. And Rebecca was really terrific when she was speaking in honestly discussing the difference between understanding these animals, working with them, and yet actually realizing that no matter how much the animals know them, respect them when there's a fence between them, these are high-level predators. And I love the way they have all of the enclosures set up so that they can always divide it into 2 sections. So you can get into the front section if you've sectioned the animal off into the back section, or you can get the animal into the front section like Rebecca just did and close that off, and then you can go and do things in the back section, but never. So that was something really clear that she was, really telling us about, was never are you both in the same section at the same time.
doing? Hi.
Oh, look at the
Hi, sir. Come
movement.
here. So also, what you kind of saw me do was how we do things here. So we do not go in with our animals because it is too unsafe. So we have a two-part system to all of our enclosures. So as you can see, Max is out there. He's going to come through this opening and he'll be in this area. But what you saw me do was kind of partially lower a slide gate. And that's how we separate these guys from us. Hi, sir. Oh, hi. Hi. I love you. So Max was actually the first tiger I ever got the privilege of raising when he came. And I love him, but I really love adult animals so much better. All babies are cute, of course, but when they have their actual personality and who they are is where they're more fun. Oh, I know, you're very whiny. You're very whiny. I know.
You woke me up.
Yes. So what makes Max our largest tiger, aside from just in general his size, he is very long and also very tall, which sets him as our biggest tiger. And you can see where he's kind of lost a lot of that mass in the back end, but you can see like how thick his legs are and how big he used to be. I know, you're a good boy. I know, I love you. I know, you're my good boy.
Are there any of them that you go in the enclosure with? Like,
So we can go in with a handful of like the smaller cats, but mostly because they don't bother us. They're more afraid of us, so they go up and they don't shift for us. So we kind of go in just to clean with them.
So there you go. If you look carefully, you can see that posture of the tiger and the way he's got his tail lifted. So that is what I was looking out for the whole time once Rebecca warned us that when you see that, don't be behind him. There he goes. I'll let him finish that. We got some really great discussions about animal behavior and about normal wild animal behavior, things that we would expect tigers to learn and understand in the wild. And it really made me think about all of the pressures that are on our wildlife carers who are raising our little koala joeys, because it's really hard for a human being to teach normal wild animal behaviors to a small animal, an orphan, as we're raising them. And people particularly may not teach them to be cats when they're raising them to be pets. And these cats have to learn so much when they come to these rescue places. It was just fascinating for me.
It's a very bittersweet thing to watch these animals become what they should have already been. Like, they don't even know what they are. We have one of the tigers that came from that same facility had never had a water tank before, so they never got to play in the water. So the whole first summer we had that tiger, he just kind of hung out in the shade all the time looking miserable. And we're like, go swimming, you're a tiger. Well, it's just so happened, I don't know why he was doing this, but we happened to see it one day. He was standing on his water tank, all four legs on the water tank, drinking out of it. I don't know why. It was a weird thing to do. He fell in. And it's not like it wasn't a big deal. Those water tanks aren't, they're not too big or anything. He jumped out and freaked out. We laughed because it was kind of funny. He went to the back and looked at us like, I don't know what happened. And I'll tell you what, the next day he was in that water tank. And every day after that, he was like, I can play in there. Like, that felt good. And it's that kind of stuff that, you look back on it and you're like, I watched this tiger become a tiger. And it's so bittersweet. It's so great to see it happen, but it should have already known. It should have had the ability to do that. They should know what they are. They should know, all of this stuff, and they don't have that. And that's where it's a very bittersweet. 4 red foxes, and there's a little gray fox that lives in here with them. We're almost done with one enclosure for some wolves that we have to go get. It's kind of like an emergency situation. So we're gonna go get those wolves, and then these guys are up next for an enclosure. But they have the ability to go inside, outside, which our old vet clinic area was the basement of Joe's house, and it served its purpose. We did everything we needed to do there, but the recovery, they were in circus cages that we refurbished to use for that, and it wasn't ideal, but it was what we had, and it worked. This works so much better. It's more comfortable for them to recover. You know, they can go inside and outside freely. Before, we would have to wheel them outside every day and wheel them back inside.
Get used to stuff too. I mean, you have to acclimate them.
Yeah. So this is absolutely incredible. So when we have our dentists come into town, we have 2 tables running at once. So as we're bringing in an animal, before it was up Joe's driveway, which is very narrow. So if I was coming down with an animal and he was leaving with an animal, we're stuck. Somebody's got to move. Now somebody can be pulling in while somebody's pulling out. So it's amazing. We have a conference room that we can do whatever in. Obviously storage. Now this is absolutely incredible here. And obviously the unreleasable coyote, and you can see why she's unreleasable. You're crazy. People have found her as a baby before either of them raised her, so she does not go back out to the wild. Poor thing. Adorable as she is. She is absolutely adorable. She's doing really well. So isn't this incredible? Like, before our x-ray machine was a portable x-ray machine, and it worked. Okay, it functioned. But
I don't want an extra machine.
This is incredible. This is just so much nicer. It's much nicer x-rays, much more clear. It is incredible. We are so lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, to get one of the larger cats up here, is it just the equivalent of a blanket and husky people lifting?
Pretty much. So we use an Army surplus body bag, which is very lightweight. It's got handles, obviously. But yeah, because the more weight you have, when you've already got, a multiple 100-pound animal immobilized, that's dead weight. So it weighs even more. So yeah, we put them on the Army surplus body bag. We use just brute force to pick them up, but then our ambulance has a lift gate. So once we get them to the ambulance, we put them on the lift gate, and then we can lower that gate to a gurney level, and then wheel them here if they need to. And once they're on the gurney,
as you see on TVs where they move them from the gurney to everybody, you move them on.
Yep, that's exactly
Makes it
it.
much easier. You can get level with it anyway.
Yep, it is. It's so amazing.
Yeah.
We're still in awe of this building.
Oh, this is wonderful.
How long have you had it?
So we did our ribbon cutting in March.
Oh, exciting. It's still brain spanking.
Like it still has new building smell. Even though we can smell sticky foxes in here. It still just has such
I
new
agree.
building
No,
smell.
there's the floors are still perfect. And wow.
Fantastic.
But yeah, it's incredible, and I'll show you guys our operating room. Our operating room in here is now the size of our whole clinic before.
Right, because we have one tiny room that would be about this long and about this wide, and that is X-ray ultrasound surgery. Yep.
But it functions, right? Like that's how we were before. It functioned. We did everything we needed to, so they got
Yep.
where they needed.
Before that, we had to take all of the koalas to vets.
Yeah.
Right,
And
so the
there's-
stress of you would have to catch them, cage them, drive them.
Right, and
You know,
before
so, yep,
we
it
had
works.
in the basement clinic, we used to have to take them to the University of Illinois. So it was
Exact
a 2-hour
same thing.
drive.
That's right.
Yeah.
Some of the vets we would have to go 2 hours away. Yeah.
But you do what works. So this is like I said, this is our ambulance here. This is a lift gate. So we'll just lower it to the ground, get the animal on here, and then we can lift it. And it's wonderful.
I love that. It's a hustler. Right. So perfect.
Okay, guys, we're going in the operating room.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is it absolutely is. It's amazing. Just the amount of space to be able to do work on an animal in here is incredible. Our We're so happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But like I said, I do apologize. We haven't quite gotten it all clean since surgery yesterday morning, so we'll get there.
This is fantastic. Just amazing.
So the one that she's like on right now, that's our large animal anesthesia machine, and then we've got two small animals.
The size of those hoses.
Oh yeah.
And your tank here, the size of that, you know, yeah.
When you intubate a tiger, is what you intubate.
Oh my God.
This tube is huge.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
Also, I'll see if I can. We've got all
That's-
different size tubes here,
Yeah.
because this is a tiger, and then you've got all the way down to some of the smaller animals.
Yeah,
like these
yeah,
little
yeah.
ones. It's
Yeah.
insane the difference.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's like enough anesthetic to kill all of us.
Yeah.
Well, that's what holds your throat open while you're under the anaesthetic. Yeah. Yeah, that's
and
fabulous.
The drugs that we use, yes, we would.
I tell you, that was probably one of the things that I was just the most thrilled with, was seeing the difference in the size of those endotracheal tubes. So to think that the tiger is so big that that is the size that you need for a tube to go down through the mouth and into the lungs to hold the airway open and deliver the oxygen and anaesthetic to the tiger while it's being worked on. We just look at the size of that tube compared to Rebecca's body. And then the size of that next endotracheal tube that she's holding, and that is larger than what you would use for a human, but it is, one of the ones for the smaller big cats, and just the size difference and the extremity of it just totally tickled my fancy. I studied veterinary nursing when I first left school, so I'm quite familiar with things like these anaesthetic machines and those endotracheal tubes. You can see that vacuum cleaner there, because there would be a lot of hair to get out of the way when they start prepping one of these big cats for any kind of procedure.
Really fantastic.
And I love how it's so hosable.
Yeah.
You know,
it
like
needed
it's
to
just
be,
so,
because,
yeah,
as you
it's
can see,
really
our
great
stories,
design.
We're
Yeah.
taking these animals from out in the field. They're not
Yeah,
clean.
yeah,
You know?
exactly,
And if it's
exactly.
pouring down rain,
Yeah.
they're going to have a mess on their hands. So that's why we did the concrete, all the drains around.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's brilliant.
Except for the scale, it looks like a veterinary surgery in a farm
Yeah.
vet. Because I've been in several of those. But the scale is
Exactly, like that's just, I love that.
Well, it's just a wonderful facility.
Yeah, we still can't get over it. We're still so excited.
Oh, yeah.
Now, to put things to scale a little bit again, now there's me, and I know I'm only 5 foot tall, but there's me standing beside that large cat anaesthetic machine. And those tubes are just, it's pretty much as thick as my wrist. That is like insane, the size of it. There's another image of it again. It might not mean anything to you if you've never seen this kind of equipment before, but having, worked in veterinary nursing, I know the size of the machine that we use for the koalas, etc. It was just amazing to see it. And now I'm taking a photo of the anaesthetic machine for the smaller of the big cats, which is one that's way more like the size of what you would use for a human. Now, part of that anaesthetic machine is some filters that are filtering the carbon dioxide and things out of the air when you're breathing back out. And that's that container on the right with the white stuff in it. And when you compare just like the size of that chamber on the other machine, that was what caught my eye first. And then I was looking at the size of the hosing. But yeah, just amazing. I love it completely. That's the kind of stuff that just blows my mind away, is the sheer size of these animals. Well, that's it. That's my roundup of this amazing visit to the Big Cat Rescue Center, and I just cannot thank Joe and Rebecca enough for the way they made us welcome, the amount of information that they gave to us and explained to us, and you have made it to the end of yet another Koala Gardens video. If you were here live watching it with me as a premiere, thanks so much for being here, and if not, just enjoy the video. Make sure you like, comment, share it out to other people, and go and check the Exotic Feline Rescue Center out. I've got links in the description below. I've become a patron of them even, and I think that if you get any opportunity to go and see what they're doing, it's well worth it. So would you write in the comments below, from the little to the big? Thanks so much for watching. There is lots more great video coming your way. And of course, we'll be back to our regular schedule of koalas by then. Another way that you can support what I'm doing, of course, is anytime you need something, hop over to Redbubble and see if it's available there. It could be a set of coasters, a new clock, a hoodie, something for a baby. There's so many different designs, great range of items you can have it sustainably printed on and posted to you.